Nope, it's not clickbait. This phone actually runs Windows 7. Not Windows Mobile, not some weird flash game simulator thing. This is full-fledged desktop Windows 7. And yes, it's just as absurd as it sounds. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So I think I can say with a good degree of confidence that this right here is one of the most ultra-mobile PCs. Now, you may remember this device category that really peaked in popularity somewhere between the late 2000s and early 2010s. Essentially, these were small handheld devices that ran full desktop versions of Windows that were meant to be somewhere in between a PDA and a laptop. However, this is typically the size that you would find them in. They wouldn't usually be in something this small. I mean, this thing is without a doubt the smallest Windows 7 computer that I have ever held. But at the same time, it's also the thickest smartphone that I've ever held because this thing is absolutely chunky. It is actually thicker than this Windows Mobile PDA from 2003. Just barely, but it is thicker because they had to cram an Intel Atom x86 CPU into this thing, which is a CPU you would normally find on a netbook or maybe a low-end laptop from this time period. And then of course you also have the slide-out keyboard and this nice little trackball here for moving the pointer around. It is such a fascinating device. Now, I have seen a handful of smartphones that shipped with full-fledged Windows versions over the years, but they are few and far between, and I was very lucky to find this one online recently for, well, it was pretty expensive to be honest, but it's been something I've been wanting to take a look at for a very, very long time. This particular one is the F-07C that was released by Fujitsu exclusively in Japan on the NTT Docomo network back in 2011. So I know, huge surprise, Japan getting something cool that nobody else in the world got access to. But you could pick this up for 70,000 yen, which at the time was equivalent to around $860. And if you did pick it up, this is the box that it would have come in. Which honestly is a pretty bland, boring looking box, but this kind of just looks like a generic carrier thing. So, you got the model number of the phone up here, the color it came in, which is navy black. You got a list of everything inside. And yeah, let's go ahead and crack it open. I mean, you've seen I've already taken the phone out. This is where it would have gone, but we also have your usual little thing of cables here. So this is the micro USB cable. Actually not the original one, but it's nice the seller put one in here. We've got the wall wart, as well as an adapter for connecting a pair of headphones to this thing. Yeah, you don't see one of these bundled with modern smartphones, do you? But this is a micro USB to a 3.5mm headphone jack, and it's got this nice little clip-on thing so you can clip your pair of headphones to you. We also have your usual reading material. So we've got the phone's manual. We have a whole bunch of other, stuff in here, information that you would probably want to read through. But the funniest thing we have in here is a Microsoft Office Personal 2010 CD. Yeah, because you can totally use that with the phone. Well, you can actually, we'll get to that in a moment, but yeah, you have a CD here for, reinstalling Office Personal. It does come included on the install of Windows 7. That being said, I think it's hilarious that they actually advertise Microsoft Office as one of the big features of this thing. I mean, it came with a 2-year license to this. So yeah, you could use this little tiny keyboard to type out all your college essays or, draft financial documents or whatever you want to do, which just sounds like a super, super fun time. In all seriousness, though, this was definitely meant to be used in conjunction with the Cradle, which was sold as a separate accessory and essentially allowed you to turn the phone into a desktop computer. So it gave you USB and HDMI out, so you could hook it up to a display, plug in a keyboard and mouse, and give a PowerPoint presentation off of it. And that is really, really cool. Unfortunately, the listing that I bought did not include it, but I did end up getting one of these cables right here, which allows you to hook up USB devices and plug this into a computer if you wanted to, which we will definitely be making heavy use of this later. But for now, let me go ahead and adjust the camera, and we'll take a look at this thing in action. Right after a quick word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev, who provides a fantastic way to learn how to code. Whether you're a complete beginner or just want to brush up on what you already know, their learning platform is designed to keep you from getting bored because it's structured just like a role-playing game, with quests to complete, XP to earn, even a leaderboard to compete on. And it really keeps you wanting to come back to continue progressing through the lessons. They've got two main learning paths that focus on back-end web development, but you can also take their courses individually if there's something specific you want to focus on. Whatever you choose, boot.dev will get you used to writing a ton of code while working on real projects. And they also have very useful tools if you ever get stuck, like viewable solutions for each programming challenge, and their spellbook feature, which provides a cheat sheet of links and notes that you unlock as you make progress. Plus, they back everything with a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy, with every course available to view for free before you subscribe to a membership, which you can do by clicking the link below. And make sure to use code MichaelMJD at checkout to get 25% off your first payment. So be sure to check them out, and huge thanks again to boot.dev for making this video possible. So one of the neat things about this phone is it actually has two operating systems. In addition to Windows 7, it runs Symbian for the phone part of the phone. It also, I've noticed, I've been trying to like dial in the focus here on the camera. This thing goes to sleep incredibly quickly by default. I think it's less than 30 seconds here. Watch how I see, like there, it starts to go to sleep or, you know, turn off the display. But yeah, so this interface, we're honestly not going to spend a whole lot of time in. This is where you're going to make calls, send text messages, all that stuff. Not really terribly exciting, and let's be honest, not the stuff that all of you came here for. So let's go ahead and switch over to Windows 7. That is done by pressing this button on the right side, this little Windows key. When you do that, the phone will come up with a screen letting you know it's switching over to Windows 7. And normally when you press that to get out of Windows 7 and switch back to Symbian, it hibernates the Windows 7 installation. So now it's going to resume that session. But if you were to go into the start menu and power off and, you know, go to shutdown, it will, you know, have to do a whole restart again. Something I found interesting is while it's loading up here, you can see it was in portrait, but as soon as it finishes, it will switch to the landscape orientation, which is how you're going to want to be using this thing anyways, because it's just going to offer you a much better experience. And I am going to go ahead and plug in the phone. You can see it's warning us about the battery right there. The micro USB port is located right here on top of the phone, or well, if you have it in the portrait orientation anyways. So we'll go ahead and plug this in. And this legitimately blew my mind. Check this out. This thing runs AERO. Like, can you believe that? I was shocked. But then I had to look at the specs, and this thing does meet the AERO system requirements. On paper. This is where it gets pretty interesting. So this has a 1.2 gigahertz Intel Atom. The minimum for AERO is a 1 gigahertz processor, and it has 1 gigabyte of RAM, which is right at the minimum. However, to save both battery life and to probably not have this thing run any hotter than it already runs, Fujitsu actually capped the processor speed at 50% of what it's actually capable of, meaning that this CPU runs at 600 megahertz, which is certainly not the minimum requirement for AERO. And as you saw, it does switch to AERO when you plug it in. When we unplug it, it'll switch back to the Windows 7 basic theme, again, probably to preserve battery life, because you're only going to get 2 hours approximately of battery life on this thing in the Windows 7 mode. So we're going to pretty much keep this thing plugged in to the wall for the rest of this video. Now, some other quick things of note. This does have a Wi-Fi adapter built in. You can see the network icon down here is, you know, it says it's like disabled or it can't find anything. You have to actually run this little tool here on the desktop, and it will give you the option to turn that on, and then we can utilize the Wi-Fi, you know, and connect this thing to the network, which we're certainly going to do. So now you can see we can connect to networks down there, and I think that pop-up was just letting you know that it like turned off the 3G capabilities while the Wi-Fi is on. Another neat thing is, you know how I mentioned we had this Microsoft Office CD and I said you can actually use it with the phone? Well, that's because this has one of those remote disk drive tools built in where you can utilize another computer's disk drive as long as it's connected to the same network that the phone is currently on. So speaking of, why don't we get this thing online and mess around with it a little bit? So this typically is the you know, orientation or just the way you're going to have this set up to use. You're going to want to have the keyboard out. and you can move around with this little trackball down here. You can, you know, obviously touch the screen, but I mean, it's just not really ideal for, you know, a desktop interface on this really tiny display. So, you know, I've just been, when I've been messing around with this off camera, I've been using the trackball. This up here is your left click button. Also of note, I guess I didn't mention this before, but both in Symbian as well as in Windows 7 here, I've changed the language to English. On Symbian, that was actually very easy to do. You just had to find the option to change the language. But on Windows 7, this doesn't actually ship with any other languages aside from Japanese, which again makes sense with this being a Japanese exclusive. So I had to follow along with this guide I found online for manually adding the English language files to it and running a few commands to, you know, have it set that as the default language. You can see we are mostly in English now, but there are still a handful, well actually more than a handful of things that are in Japanese, mainly just these program names that, you know, that's just the name of the program, so that's what it shows up as. There is a fair amount of pre-installed stuff. We also have bloatware like Norton in here, which can we just actually uninstall this like right from here? Yes, let's totally just get this off of here because this is going to be a major resource hog. And yeah, that's been uninstalled, so we'll go ahead and restart the system. And here we are logging back in. I have to say, the boot up times, I mean, they're definitely not the fastest that I've experienced, but they are faster than I was expecting for sure. And when it logs in, it will load the standard desktop, but it actually brings you to this really interesting, like, touch-centric interface for Windows 7. So check this out. It kind of looks like the Symbian UI that we saw before. It's definitely more, you know, for you to use the touchscreen with. So like we can open up Microsoft Word here, and it will, at least when I was messing around with this before I opened up Internet Explorer, it will like take you back to the desktop. Oh, we have to activate Office. Okay, get the heck out of here. I'm not dealing with this nonsense right now. I'm not really that obsessed with starting up Microsoft Word. You can get back to that interface by double-clicking or just single-clicking because it's actually got that other navigation thing, whatever, where you hover over like an icon and it selects it, and then you just click it once. So this right here will bring up the touch interface that we just saw. You can, of course, use the mouse pointer to move around if you want to. And yeah, you can go through here and pick out an application to launch. You've got this little dock over here on the side that's kind of like your most frequently used ones. You can modify that by going into the settings window, and I think it's this option here. So you can go in and change, like say we want to change Outlook to, I don't know, hearts. So we can select that and we'll press OK. It's just, you know, if you preferred to use the touchscreen, you know, it's nice that they included this because, I mean, Windows 7 is definitely not very pleasant to use with a tiny little touchscreen like this and going around trying to hit on the icons and the start menu and stuff. So, what's interesting though is not all of your programs show up in here. They show up in that menu when you go to modify it, but I think what you have to do is like add them to here. And yeah, it's this menu right here. I just added data sources. But if you want to add the defrag UI, you just hit that, hit OK, and then it will come up with this little confirmation thing. You go back to the main screen, and now you can get access to the defragmenter right from here. Now, I guess Internet Explorer is the only one in here, at least that I've seen so far, that does what I thought Office was going to do. Let's just go back into here. It will actually bring up this sidebar. So here you go. You've got these larger navigation controls that you can touch with your finger. So if I want to press URL, it'll come up with a full screen URL entry thing. And then it kind of gives you some more keys up here because, you know, you don't have dedicated number keys on the physical keyboard. But yeah, so I can go, you know, HTTP, www. We're not even on the network right now, but, you know, let's just say I type in google.com. Yes, and it enters that up there. Of course, you can't display the web page. But let's go ahead and get the system online. And now that we're on the network, let me hop into the start menu here, and we'll try and see if we can get this remote disk drive thing set up and running, because we could certainly use a USB disk drive to do what we're about to do, which I know you guys probably already know if you've seen many of these videos. Yeah, we're going to try to install some games on this thing and, you know, kind of push it to its limits. But I think it would be fun to try and install those games using the remote disk tool. We'll go ahead and open it up. And what it seems to do is it tells you like, hey, you have to install a piece of software on the host computer so that this one here can access its disk drive. So when you click on this, you say yes, and it comes up with this like file picker. So we're just gonna choose the desktop, and I think it will like drop like an exe. I haven't actually gone this far in it yet. Oh, 79 items. Oh shoot, okay. Well, at least it puts it into a folder for us. Yeah, this folder is called host installer. So if we open this up, we've got a setup executable. So we're going to utilize this cable. Now this plugs into this bottom connector here. This is also how, if we had the docking cradle, this is how that connects as well. So we're just going to plug a flash drive into this USB port, and then we'll just drag this into the drive. You can see this is actually what I used to copy over the English language pack. All right, let's switch over to my capture PC and see if we can get this working. Well, unfortunately, it looks like the only language in here is Japanese. Oh, this is bad, because yeah, I don't have the... I don't have the Japanese language pack installed on this system. So everything just shows up as a bunch of question marks. Oh, this is going to be fantastic. But yeah, it's installed. I mean, this is the hosting tool, Fujitsu Easy Share Host. Yeah, let's hope we don't have to do a lot of reading. IDS message notify info Windows 7 show startup. Okay. Okay, well this is great. We've got like the button labels and stuff showing up instead of just a bunch of question marks. And this looks like that same tool that we have open up on the phone right now. But anyway, now we can share the drive. And if we go down here to the system tray, there is this little icon that lets you know it is currently being shared. And I'm going to pop in, you guessed it. Well, it would have been Half-Life, but unfortunately I can't actually get the phone here to recognize the drive that the computer behind me is currently sharing. And I've been troubleshooting it here for a little bit now, and I'm kind of at the point where I can keep trying to do that, or I can just switch to doing the old tried and true USB DVD drive. So I think that's what we're going to do, because I honestly don't know what it is. I mean, these computers can see each other on the network, they're in the same work group, they both have the home profile set, you know, so they're able to share like files and stuff with each other. But I mean, you can see here, this is the thing where it's supposed to show the drive that's being shared on the other system, and it just shows nothing. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of move on. But you know, theoretically, you would be able to use another computer's DVD drive to, you know, install applications and run games if you really wanted to do that. Of course, what we're gonna do instead is plug in this old USB hub, which has been showing up in a lot of videos recently, because we are going to connect not only the USB disk drive, but also a keyboard and mouse, so that we can, well, we're first going to try to play Half-Life here with, you know, with the built-in keyboard and trackball, because I think that would be pretty funny. Well, we got sound, as you can hear, so that's fantastic. And yeah, we'll just go through the setup here, and I'll just skip to some gameplay. You guys have seen this a bajillion times already. Half-Life has never looked better. Yeah, so this is the software renderer that we got going on here, you know, the software video mode. And yeah, so we got some major color display problems going on. The audio's kind of glitchy. And what's interesting is if we go into the settings here, it doesn't show any video modes for the software renderer and DirectX. So you see here under software, we got nothing. You go to Direct 3D, there's nothing. OpenGL, there are modes that you can select, but I mean, we can even do like 320 by 240. But when I did this earlier, it didn't even load. I mean, like, it started to play the audio, but it wouldn't actually display anything. So let's see what happens now at the lowest setting. And yeah, so the audio's playing now, and I can move around. You can hear like my footsteps, but yeah, it just never displays anything. And I let it sit here for a good while off camera. So yeah, that doesn't seem to be working. Now, DirectX, what did DirectX do? Let's change it over to there. I think this worked, but it was just super laggy. So let's head back here. Yeah, all the colors show up fine, but it's just super laggy. And this is at like 320 by 240 or whatever, or maybe 640 by 480. I have to check and see what the current resolution is on the phone. but you can see how laggy it is. It's pretty unbearable. And DirectX is installed, but let me change back over to the software renderer, because despite the display problem with the color, it does run the smoothest. And I guess we could, since I said I was going to do this before, we can try to move around with the with the built-in keyboard and trackball. And I mean, this is going to be awful, because you got to just do this like a million times just to rotate the camera around. But it does run Half-Life, technically, so that's a plus. I guess we'll hop out of there. Not really much else to say about that. Well, while we're here on the desktop, I want to hop into screen resolution and just see what we're working with here. 1024 by 600, okay. I want to go ahead and try and turn off the Windows AERO theme and maybe get rid of some of these programs running in the background to give the system some more, resources to work with. So we'll switch to this basic theme, and then like check out all this crap we have running. Like, can we go into MS config? I just want to see what starts up with the system. I'm probably going to leave all the Fujitsu stuff alone, but we can get rid of Adobe Acrobat, we can get rid of this, get rid of Java, get rid of... well, this is NTT Docomo is the manufacturer. I wonder if this is it's some Connect. I mean, we'll get rid of that. Set TV output. That is a Fujitsu thing, and so is this. We can get rid of the Office stuff. We got all this Intel stuff we'll leave alone. I think this is the touch interface that we explored earlier. We can turn that off. This is an updater. We probably don't need that. Let's do a restart and see what automatically starts with the OS this time. Well, we've only got a handful of things running now in the system tray. All are like pretty essential things that we want to keep running. All that other stuff has been removed. And yes, the touchscreen interface that we explored before did not come up automatically, so we did successfully turn that off in MS config. You can see just sitting here on the desktop idling, we're using 5 to 6, they're 11. Okay, well, they're jumped to 57% CPU. Now it's jumping down a little bit, so it spiked there for a second. And we're using about half of our memory just idling, which, I mean, yeah, having only 1 gig of RAM is, yeah, it's not super great. I mean, obviously the CPU being halved in terms of processor speed, also going to limit performance. Well, it certainly doesn't do anything to help the performance of Half-Life. I also installed a different DirectX version, and you can see that doesn't make a difference either. We still don't get a list of resolutions in there. But let me change, just, for the heck of it, we'll change back to the software mode here. Well, frame rate again is perfect. We're just running at this really tiny resolution, and the color is all screwed up. So, yeah. You're not going to really have a great time running even 10-year-old games on this thing, but you're not going to be playing games on this thing anyways, right? I mean, this was meant to be a portable computer that you could carry around with you, and I think that the concept of being able to plug this thing into that dock, to connect it up to a keyboard and mouse and a display, maybe at the office to give a presentation, that's a really, really cool use for this thing. Even just to have a portable Windows installed to take around with you that you have everywhere you go. There's definitely some genuine uses for this thing, but it's just not really something that would be mainstream, right? That's why we haven't really seen desktop operating systems on phones very often. But it's a neat thing to take a look at, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this demonstration video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early access to these videos, sponsor-free access, before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.